Hey everybody, my name is Nick Jordan, and in the next 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to learn how we took a project from 0 to 479,000 organics per month in 16 months without building new backlinks or doing complicated technical stuff. So I started doing SEO 3 years ago. And up until then, I worked at early stage companies in sales-oriented roles. There's nothing that predisposes me to being good at SEO. I'm not Tim Sulu's childhood best friend. You know, Craig Campbell is not my daddy, and Gareth Dane is not my ninth brother. And so if you have a good framework to learn new things and you're ambitious, the next 25 to 45 minutes is going to give you everything you need to create really great outcomes. So since starting SEO 3 years ago, I've taken 4 projects from 0 to 100,000 organics per month. And the fastest hit 100K per month in month 8. And the largest is doing over 500,000 organics per month today. And in the process of delivering these outcomes for my clients, my agency has grown from 1 person at the beginning of 2020 to 25 full-time team members at the end of 2020. And we have enough business to grow to 75 FTEs by the end of the year. So what I'm about to say next is, for whatever reason, it's controversial. I receive a lot of criticism for my approach to Google and how I think Google works. I deal with hate DMs, comments, emails, and occasionally even public callouts. And if that sounds like something you would do, just know that all these theories are based off of personal experiences, creating great outcomes again and again and again. And I love discussion. Please call me out. Do it. But just remember that I'm a real person. I'm not a robot. So if you could do it a nice way, that would be great. So here's some bonus content for you. For agencies and consultants, I'm going to give you some tips in the framework on how I grew from working with small businesses to some of the biggest, most ambitious projects on the internet really quick. And for brands, I'm going to give you some information on how to evaluate and hold SEO agencies accountable from day one. SEO agencies say it takes a long time to see results, but that doesn't mean that you can't start holding them accountable as soon as you sign the contract. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So it's 2021, and Google is the world's most innovative big data company. They also happen to own Google Analytics, Chrome, and Android. And I believe that Google uses that proprietary data to heavily influence rankings. And when I say user engagement metrics, I'm talking about bounce rate, I'm talking about time on site, I'm talking about pages visited, conversions, return visits, termination of search, and I'll even go as far as to say it could be things like branded searches and referral traffic. And what I found is that the better these metrics are, the easier it is to rank. So think about it from Google's perspective. Google can't understand content like we can. It can't read it and know if it's good or bad. And so Google has to use heuristics and signals to figure out whether content services the user more than another page of content, because there's a lot of opportunities for Google to show, how does it know what to show? So you're Google and there's 2 pages and you want to show one or the other to a searcher that's searching for a specific keyword. And the first page has a 54% bounce rate, a 4.5-minute time on site, 3.6 pages visited on average, 19% conversion rate, and it's receiving 1,000 visitors a month as well from other websites and social and stuff. Now on page B, the bounce rate is 89%. The time on site's 19 seconds. The number of pages visited on average is 0.4. The conversion rate's 0.01. and it doesn't receive any referral traffic. And finally, the last difference is the first page has only 5 backlinks and the second page has 50. You know, if you're Google and you have access to these user engagement metrics, why would you rely on a metric that everybody knows is easily gamed like backlinks? It would be the biggest oversight of the century if that happened. So one of the criticisms that I often hear is, well, what's a good bounce rate? What's a good user engagement metric? And my proposal is that a good user engagement metric is in the context of other pages Google could show. And so an 80% bounce rate might be great for one keyword, but it's really bad for another. And this is true for all of the metrics that Google is looking at. It's in the context of the other pages it could show. So why do I believe this? The reason I believe this is because I strive to create more value for the reader than any other page Google could show for the keywords I want to rank for. I really set up my entire systems for quality. That's a very important KPI that I shoot for when I do SEO. And I do it at scale. And that's basically all I do. And the things that I don't do are build new backlinks. And I don't do technical stuff like schema and NLP and keyword density and anchor ratio and 99% of the other things that you'll find in Backlinko's 250 ranking factors article. And despite the small amount of things that I do and the large amount of things that I don't do, I consistently create great outcomes again and again and again and again. And it's not just me. If it was just me, I'm scientifically oriented. If it's just me, I'd say, if no one else can reproduce it, it's probably not true. But it is reproducible, and it's reproducible by people like Tim Sulo, CMO of Ahrefs. So in the past 6 years, they've grown traffic from 100K a month to 1 million a month. And Tim says that they've never bothered with things like LSI, LDI, TF, IDF entities. And what they focus on is nailing the intent, having a really deep understanding of what they're talking about, great readability, and engaging visuals. And Tim goes on to say that he's friends with many of their customers, and that's true for them too. They're able to create great outcomes without focusing on the super technical stuff that people typically associate with SEO. Now, you might say, hey, well, Tim's the CMO of Ahrefs. Of course, Ahrefs is going to get a lot of organic traffic. They have the most backlinks ever. But it's not just Ahrefs. It's not just Tim Sewell. Here's Dan Sanchez. His company produces podcasts for B2B brands. He doesn't know anything about SEO, but that didn't stop him from growing a website from 0 to 100,000 organics a month. And the way that he did it was through creating good content and creating a lot of it. And there's hundreds of examples of this across the internet in Facebook groups. The income school guys preach this. And so the fact that it's not just us, and I see other people creating great outcomes, following the same strategy, really truly drives home to me that this is the way that Google works. So let's examine my wins. So these are 5 projects. 4 of them hit the 100K mark. I included any leads which only hit 50K because it's still a nice win. It's still a successful project. And there's a couple takeaways here. The first is that my wins are across all sorts of industries: pets, marketing automation, education, e-commerce, and do not pay. They have dozens of different verticals that they target. And then the DRs range from DR9, very low, to DR55. And the number of pages at a minimum is 70. But some of the projects go up to thousands and thousands of pages. And there seems to be a correlation between the number of pages published and the outcome. It seems like the more pages published, the higher the numbers are. So we'll keep on exploring that over the next couple slides. And let's talk about the projects that I don't show off. So So this is Brand Champ, Soxy, anonymous company number one. Anonymous company number one is run by a top 100 Forbes billionaire. And I can't even tell you who it is because I've only brought the project from 0 to 6,000 visitors a month. And that just isn't very ambitious, and it isn't it isn't just exciting. And you'll see that, they have relatively high DRs. Both these guys have pretty high DRs. The outcomes aren't great. These guys came from like 500 to 3,400. Soxy was like 3,500 to 21,000. Brand Champ was like 1,800 to 2,250. And the difference between my wins and the projects that I don't show off is the number of pages published. It's 100% the number of pages published. Projects that I can publish a lot of pages on always do well, regardless of DR. And projects that I can't publish a lot of pages on don't do well, regardless of DR. Now, what we're looking at is my projects again. We have the DR, we have the monthly organics that they topped out at, or currently at. They have the number of pages, and they have the traffic per page. And it's and what we see is that regardless of the project, regardless of the DR, regardless of the industry, that there's a band of between 166 visitors per page per month to about 1,000 visitors per page per month. There isn't any of my projects that generate, on average, 20,000 visitors per page. There isn't any project that's generating, it's 100,000 visitors a page. And so the last thing I'm going to show you in regards to how important publishing is this is an analysis I did of the top pages in the pet niche when I was building Doggypedia, and the players that I wanted to be. And I did the same analysis that you saw on the last slide, the traffic per page per month. So how much visitors each website generates divided by the number of pages they have. And we can see that there's a very narrow band again, from about 170 to 872. Of the top 10 best websites or biggest websites in the pet niche, there's no one that's generating 80% of the content, 80% of the traffic with 20% of the content. And this holds true regardless of what niche you look at. Go look at the Points guy. Go look at NerdWallet. Those guys have 20,000 plus pages, and they also generate 20 million visitors a month. So I want to break down how important publishing becomes. So in our last slide, we saw that some of the biggest websites in the dog space have thousands of pages, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. At a minimum, to hit a million visitors a month, you need about 1,500 pages if you have a very good efficiency score, but you might need even more. These guys have 1,500 and they're not even at a million. So there's thousands and thousands of opportunities to get in front of your target audience. SEO isn't about ranking for a couple keywords at the bottom of the funnel. It's about being everywhere your target audience is searching and touching them again and again and again and again and again. And when you're thinking about your own campaign, there's probably hundreds of opportunities to get in front of your target audience as well. And let's use 500 as an example. If you publish 10 pages per month, it'll take you 50 months to finish publishing enough content to be everywhere your audience already is today. And then it'll take another 6 months for that content at the end of the publishing life cycle to mature. Now, if you can bump your rate of publishing up to 100 pages per month, you can publish 500 pages in 5 months. And that means By month 11, all of your content will be mature and creating business impact. Whereas, if you stick to 10 per month, you're going to have to wait 4 years to be everywhere your target audience is searching, versus 11 months, or even 8.5, you can get up to 200 pages per month. So I want to clarify my position on backlinks. So we don't build backlinks because we never had to learn how to build backlinks to great outcomes. Our projects just never stopped going up. And so I never got around to learning how backlinks work. If my projects had stopped going up at 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever, I probably would have investigated backlinks, but that never happened. And so I just don't know how to do it. You also, you also might not be able to get away with little backlinks in every niche. If you're trying to rank for cancer lawsuits and healthcare and stuff, those aren't industries I've participated in, but I've participated in a lot of industries, and you really can get away with the earned media that you naturally accumulate. Now, when we work on our own projects, we build Web 2.0s. We build an Instagram and a Pinterest and a Facebook and a Twitter. We build local citations, and then we hustle our friends, and we'll get maybe a dozen. I think content distribution has like a dozen hustled backlinks. But we don't have like a dedicated outreach strategy. There's no dedicated team member. We don't engage contractors. We're not buying backlinks from marketplaces or like vendors, or like responding to the guys in our DMs who are selling backlinks. So to summarize our approach to Google and how to create really massive outcomes consistently is focus on publishing content that's more valuable than any other page Google could show for the keywords you want to rank for, and then do that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times per month. That's literally it. Sounds crazy, but service the user and things will follow. So from a high level, end to end, this is what a project looked like. This is what a project looks like. And this is applicable to Do Not Pay, and this is applicable to all the projects that we've run. So the first thing is we need to develop project guidelines. We need to develop a buyer persona. We need to automate keyword research. We need to create content templates for the writer. We need to optimize the pages using Cluster AI. And then we do need to do a little bit of technical BS. Our outcome wasn't completely technical BS free, but it was close. And so I'll explain more about how to think about, out of all the technical BS that exists to pay attention to, where to focus your attention. So technical BS is last for a reason, because your biggest bottleneck is content, not technical SEO. And I wouldn't spend, if I'm engaging an agency and they're proposing spending months on just technical SEO, I wouldn't do it unless I have content maturing in Google, because then you're paralyzing work. While they're doing technical stuff, the content that they published is getting more mature and it's going to begin to rank. But if you kick off, if you jump out the gate with technical SEO, well, you just set back your ranking timeline by however long it takes to get that first page of content out. And it takes a lot longer to move a page of content from your content calendar to publishing to ranking. Content might sit on my content calendar for 4 months, and then I get published it, and then it takes 6 months to rank. So that's a 10-month life cycle, where technical improvements are felt in a matter of weeks. If you improve your site structure, if you improve your site speed, if you fix your mobile issues, you'll see changes within a week. And then finally, there's a better ROI if you have lots of traffic. If you spend a couple months and several $1,000s on technical SEO on a thin content site, ultimately a 10% lift of 1,000 visitors a month is 100 visitors a month. It wasn't a very good ROI. But if you do some technical SEO on a site that's generating 100,000 visitors a month and you increase by 10%, that's 10,000, and now that was a good spend. But really, technical BS is just a small part of what we do. So one of the one of the most important things you're going to do as an organization, and really to get the outcomes that you want, is you have to set your writers up for success. Writers are literally worth their weight in Google stock. But the more work you do, the better deliverable that you're going to get back. You're going to increase the standardization between writers. On our project, we have over a dozen writers, half a dozen editors, and we want to make sure that we're consistently describing the product correctly. We're consistently describing the kind of the industry and regulations around it correctly, et cetera. You can also increase the quality of content delivered. You know the industry the best. You have the most familiarity with the topic. Do not leave it to chance that all your writers are going to be able to do the research necessary to dig that information that you spent years accumulating out. It also decreases the amount of time the writer needs to take to learn these things and create great content, which will help with retention. It'll help them ghost you less. And the faster that they can write, the higher effectively hourly rate they have. And then it also decreases your time spent in editing revisions, getting it to a place that can be published. So the more work you put up front, the better outcome you're going to get. And so you should invest a lot of time in setting the writers up for success, because again, it all comes down to creating more value than any other page Google could show. So project guidelines about the company, products and features, or positioning in the market, critical messaging, awards, earned media coverage, business metrics, brand guidelines. So to make this real, let's talk about it from the context of Do Not Pay, who this project's about. So Do Not Pay was founded after the founder got a bunch of parking tickets and built an app to dispute them automatically for him. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people went on to download the app and dispute their tickets, saving tens of millions of combined dollars in fees. He used that traction to raise money from Andreessen Horowitz and Peter Thiel. And now he has, over 1 million users, and his product does dozens of things to help, people fight corporate and government bureaucracy. Critical messaging for, we'll talk about a particular product. They have a product that helps loved ones communicate with prisoners. You can snap some selfies, either write a message or take a picture of a note, and Do Not Pay will actually mail a physical package to someone in the US federal, in the prison system. A critical messaging part might be that the American prison industry has 25% of the world's prisoners, but America only has 3% of the world's population. And that, prisons make it difficult for prisoners to communicate with friends and family for two reasons. One is because they can make a lot of money from charging the prisoners and their friends and family. The second is the weaker relationships that you have while in prison, the more likely you are to commit a crime and get sent back to prison. And so this product that Do Not Pay helps foster stronger relationships between people who are incarcerated. A lot of them for nonviolent, drug offenses, and some of those drugs are now legal across the country. They've won awards from the American Bar Association for legal access. They've been called the Robin Hood of the internet by BBC. They've been on Vice, they've been on NBC, they've been on Bloomberg. They've been in all these reputable places that the writers can now reference in the content that they're writing. Business metrics, tens of millions of dollars in disputed parking tickets, 1.5 million users, I think Joshua said recently on LinkedIn or Twitter or something. And then in terms of brand guidelines, Do Not Pay should be one word, camel case, capital D, capital N, capital P. Don't separate it. Don't put lower cases in the wrong places, etc. And now with that brief, the writer literally knows everything that they need to know to create great content without having to spend hours and hours and hours kind of finding that. And when you multiply it across the number of writers you need to produce all this content, it's going to just make the deliverable that they create so much more consistent and so much better. So then you need to make a buyer persona, right? We just created the about the company, but now we're going to create a buyer persona. And the buyer persona is going to describe the buyer of the product. If you have a lot of products, you might have a lot of buyer personas, like do not pay us. You know, they dispute parking tickets, they help you sue anyone, they do chargebacks and refunds, they help you skip phone queues, DMV appointments, get fees back from, you know, colleges your application wasn't accepted from. They do all sorts of stuff. One user might use multiple products, but in general, we consider them different audiences. And so we need to help the writers understand who the audience is. You know, the challenges and the feelings they're facing while dealing with those challenges. You know, how they attempted to solve the challenges. You know, what are the common steps that they take while they're looking for solutions. And then keywords searchers use that identify the searcher as part of our target audience. You know, so in the context of do not pay and their prisoner communication product, this would be people searching for information on how to communicate with prisoners. You know, anyone who is looking for information on how to communicate with prisoners is in our target audience. And then competitive sites, this will kind of just help you figure out how searchers are searching. So now we need to do the keyword research. We have the buyer persona, we need to go figure out what those buyers are searching for. But there's a lot of problems with keyword research, especially when you're trying to scale up to one of the biggest sites in your niche. It's a manual, tedious process. The deliverables are going to differ drastically from person to person. Novice SEOs are going to make foundational mistakes that limit their impact and success. And they know it's going to happen, and they know they're not going to know for a while because SEO takes time and it creates a lot of anxiety. Experienced SEOs make mistakes because ultimately keyword research today is driven by gut level decisions. It's not done by science, or, you know, it's not a scientist, you know, scientific based thing. It's gut level decisions through and through. And then it's very difficult to delegate, you know, and requires significant investment in documentation, training, QA. You know, to meet the amount of the amount of SEO we have to do, we need a lot of internal SEOs to be able to pull it off. But we've been able to do it without internal SEOs. Most of the people in our organization don't know SEO. You know, they're all content writers. They're all good content writers, but they don't know SEO. So we automated it. And this is a big part of why we're successful, because we use data from Google SERPs to group keywords that can rank together. And so our approach to Google is based off of science. It's based off of data. And that ensures that we always pick the perfect main keyword and the variations of the main keyword to optimize each page of content for. It enables non-SEOs to do world-class keyword research. You don't have to have SEO experience to do keyword research when you're automating it using data from Google. It allows consistent deliverables regardless of who's delivering the research. And that's a huge one, is consistent deliverables. And it really saves us thousands of dollars a month and so many man hours in terms of hiring, training, managing, QAing, and documenting the keyword research process. So I'm going to show you what this process looks like, because it's going to blow your mind and you're never going to want to do old keyword research again. In fact, I don't even remember how to do old keyword research anymore. So I love Ahrefs, big shout out. So what we've done is we've used our Keyword Explorer to search for the broad general topic that we're looking for information about, which is, you know, communication with people in prison, in jail. And so we're going to start with broad keywords that we think our keywords will fall under. If you're using one of our keywords, you're going to use one of the main keywords. And it's inmate, inmates, prison, prisoner, prisoners, and prisons. And note that we have variations of the same word. And that's because we don't understand how people search. And if we only did inmate, it'd leave off all the keywords that include inmates. And we don't know which one's more popular. People probably use both. And then what we did was, what ends up happening is that, we have 2 million keyword, 2 million here. This is obviously overly broad, and a lot of these things aren't relevant to what we specifically, have to offer. Prison Break, people that are searching for Prison Break aren't in our target audience. And so what we've done is we've gone ahead and used Ahrefs filter, and it takes these 2 million keywords and it looks for these ones in here. And if it has one of these and one of these, it displays it. And inside these 34 filter keywords that we use, you can see they're all based around communicating with prisoners. And they're all, again, we're using variations: chat, chats, chatting, talk, talking, phone, phones, call, calling, calls, text, texting, cell phones. Because again, we don't know how people search around the things that they're looking for. And so now we get back 66,000 keywords with a total search volume of 220,000. And this is where it gets cool. So normally in SEO, they would start trying to group keywords manually, and they just start guessing. I think right a prisoner is the main keyword, and right a inmate is the variation. And they'll end up making that decision again and again and again and again across all of these keywords. But the thing is they can't, and so they take shortcuts, and ultimately those shortcuts aren't accurate, and it gives you bad keyword research data. So here's how we've automated it. We're just going to export the top 5,000 keywords from here. And then we're going to import it into a tool we built called Cluster AI. And, I want to CC my colleague who's the project manager on the output. I have this Ahrefs URL. Ahrefs URLs actually saved the include and exclude keywords that you used. I'm going to select the type of CSV. Supports SEMrush, Google Search Console, and custom. And then I'm going to type in the United States. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop in the CSV. And what I get back, prisoners, is a document that looks like this. And what we've done is we've taken those 5,000 keywords and we've grouped them into unique content topics based off of data from the Google SERPs. And so what that means is that when you look at this main keyword over here, you have all these variations of the main keyword over here. And each one of these variations has at least 3 results in common with the main keyword. That means if you Googled inmate calls connect, and inmate calling, at least 3 pages would rank for both keywords. And that's true for all the rest of this keywords in here. And so if there's 3 other pages that can rank for how can I get free inmate calls and inmate calling with 1 page, that means that you can rank for both of those keywords with 1 page too. Because I'm not interested in just ranking for the main keyword. I'm interested in ranking for the main keyword plus all of the variations. Because oftentimes the total search volume of the variations is as high or higher than the main keyword itself. And between main keywords, there's no risk of cannibalization. And the reason is because between inmate calling and write a prisoner, for example, there's 2 or less pages that rank for both keywords. And when you look at these 2 keywords, if there's 0 pages that are ranking for both with 1 page, you probably can't rank for both keywords with 1 page either. And you'll have to create 2 pages aka unique topics, to rank for both keywords. And if there's one or two, you probably still can't. Those websites might have something that you don't. And so it groups those keywords apart. And so it's mathematically provable that every variation has a bunch of results in common with the main keyword, and no two main keywords have a bunch of results in common with each other. And so now we understand exactly how much opportunity there is to get in front of our target audience, how many pages of content per month that we need to publish, how many pages that we need to publish to be everywhere our target audience is searching. And what we'll see is that some of these aren't relevant to us. Women in prison sounds kind of like a porn thing. Gay prison, not really relevant to us. Prison talk, not relevant. Los Angeles inmate visit. We don't care about visits. We care about communication. But all these blue highlighted ones are relevant. And so we just did, if we're publishing, we just did 70 pages of content, hundreds of pages of content of keyword research in like the 30 seconds that, it took to go from Ahrefs to Cluster AI. I spent a lot of time talking, so it's probably a little bit longer than 30 seconds, but if you guys weren't here with me, it would take about 30 seconds. And what we've done is we've gone ahead and we've separated, all of the different products into different opportunities, as we call them. So with burner phones, Do Not Pay has a fake phone number that you can use for verification when you need to provide a phone number. And we've published, 40 pages of content here. And then we have one for college fee waivers. And essentially, we've done keyword research for tens of thousands of pages, in a very, very little amount of time. And even if you don't end up publishing all this content, it still helps you prioritize, what you should publish first. It can help you understand the total costs of the campaign. It can help guide your content creation that you're already investing into. And it's a complete game changer. And by the way, the tool is called contentdistribution.com keyword grouping tool. It's called Cluster AI. And we've been using it internally for 3 years. And we've used it to power all of our projects that have gone from 0 to 100,000 organics per month. I really think it's a critical piece of our process to have perfect keyword research and then be able to take that perfect keyword research and allow non-SEOs to optimize content using it. So go check it out. It's used by some, really, really big brands. All right, so back to the presentation. After we do our keyword research and we have the list of topics that we're going to create content about, the next thing we need to do is we need to create a content series template. So we have the about the project or about the company, we have the buyer persona, and now it's the content series template. And a content series template is like a writer brief on steroids because it covers all of the hundreds of pages that are within a single content silo that we just saw. And enables an entire team of writers to cover an entire library of content with high levels of quality, consistency, and efficiency from your editing team. And this is really critical. So the content series template process is identify the best resources in the niche to set the minimum quality standards for your writers. Just because something ranks on the first page of Google doesn't mean it's the best quality in the niche. And so, use the knowledge you have to go find the resources that are really literally the best content that, if you could match, you would be thrilled, even if it doesn't appear on Google, because this is telling your writers the content needs to be at least this good. If there's research involved, give your writers a list of what websites and resources that they can use for research purposes. Do the research for the writers. Don't rely on the writers to go and find, every single relevant, page on how, the rules and regulations surrounding, communication with, federal and state inmates. Do that for people. And then open up the first page, open up the search results across the first page for the top 30 keywords, and identify what your competitors are doing well so that you can copy, and identify what they're not doing well so you can improve. And again, your goal is to create the most comprehensive, the most reader value of any other page that Google could show for the keywords that you want to rank for. And then create standardized H2s that should appear in each article. And then create a framework so your writers can add unique H2s to the specific article, because the standardized H2s may not always be relevant. Not all of them will be in every circumstance. So you want to give the writers a framework for, modifying the existing H2s and adding their own H2s. Identify the internal links that you want them to use, the number of words, the number of bullet points, lists, tables, et cetera. Call that out. And really put in a lot of work, because if you don't, you're not going to get the deliverable that you're looking for back. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, great. Update. Users cannot receive faxes through Do Not Pay. We've added some screenshots. This is great information for the writers. Here are the writing requirements. Here are a bunch of info and examples. Here are the instructions. Here's our policy on plagiarism. Here's the structure. Here's the internal links that we want them to link to in every article. These are probably our power pages that we really, really want to rank for. Here's how to find other internal linking opportunities, because we don't just want to stop at the ones that we want to rank. We want to, naturally bring the user from page to page to page. Here's a list of our competition. Here's how to write the metadata. Here's all of the places Do Not Pay has been featured in. Here's how to write, here's how to write the metadata. Here's how to do the H1. The keyword is the main keyword from Cluster AI. Here's H2s. Here's another H2. And then down here is, more H2s. And our other, content series templates look, almost exactly the same. So we have the writing requirements, we have some updates, we have some details on the states, and how the product works. We have some infos and examples. We have instructions, plagiarism, links we need to use in every article. Again, our power pages, how to find more internal linking opportunities, our competition that we don't want to internal link to. We have a glossary. We have where you've been featured, H1, the problem with the current process. We set up the problem. We set up the solution. We tell you how to do it on your own. It sucks. Do Not Pay is way easier. And then we say, what else can Do Not Pay do? And then we'll look at one more. Again, word count and stuff, examples from government websites. We have some resources there. We have internal linking, mandatory, again, power pages. We have the metadata. The product's actually pretty cool. It makes it easier to file a F Freedom of Information request. It tells you how to, it solves the user's problem. It tells you exactly how to do it without Do Not Pay. If you don't want to use Do Not Pay, you don't have to. Do Not Pay will, give you the tools you need to do it on your own, but at the same time, it'll also present Do Not Pay as the easiest way to do it.
And so it really is the best of both worlds. We satisfy the search intent, we give the reader the more value than anyone else, and we let them know that the status quo could be better, and we have a solution. All right. So on-page optimizations. Cluster AI makes on-page optimization super easy because now we can template out the on-page optimizations. You don't need to know SEO anymore to optimize content. In fact, again, there's only 2 people in our organization that know SEO, me and our SEO director, who joined the company, 4 or 5 months ago after we already crushed it, for 4 projects. And today, our content editors and our writers are optimizing content, and none of them, have any prior SEO experience. They're just following a script, and the script is the URL is always the main keyword every time. So if we go back and look at our opportunity analysis, and we go back to prisoner communication, and we go to inmate calling, and we go to donotpay.com/learn/inmate calling, that's the URL. The metadata. So the metadata balances using the main keyword plus getting the clickbait. So, we go all out on getting the click. Social proof is really good. We'll use numbers like how much money we've saved people, how many users we have, the fact that we, Do Not Pay was on Bloomberg last week, etc. In the H2s and H3s, we try and use variations, all of these guys in about 40 to 60% of the H2s, not all of them. We don't want to over optimize. And so while we're going through the content, and setting up the content series template, sometimes or the writers are writing, the variations may drive the H2s. There may be a good variation that would make its own dedicated H2, but it doesn't have to be. You can use the variations across the content. And so when we're editing the content, and the writers used meet an inmate for the 4th time, in the body, we might call it prisoner dating, or wisdom, or let's go back to inmate calling. When the writers used inmate calling for the 4th time, we might change the 5th time to put money on phone calls for inmate calls, or put money on inmate phone account, or local blah, 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 blah. We'll basically naturally integrate the variations of the way people search into the content. After the writer focuses on creating the best content possible. The anchor text, this is always the main keyword when we're linking out to an internal link, or it's always just the main keyword. I think it would be nice to do like variations of the main keyword, but we don't have a good system for tracking like ratios and stuff. So we've just always done the main keyword. Could be better here. All right, so here's some technical SEO that we do care about. We care about mobile speed and friendliness. We care a lot. We care about the URL structure. We want to reduce the number of hops in the URL. So if a blog post is in a category, we're not going to put that category in the URL. It's going to be, domain.com/article title, if possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but we'll try and reduce the number of hops in the URL. Internal linking structure is super important. We spend a lot of time thinking about how many, links should go on Do Not Pay's homepage. How many can it take? We have a lot of articles, we have a lot of features. How many links can we put? Here's the most recent articles. This helps us get indexed faster. And then here's the super articles that we, drive the most conversions. And then we have the most popular, content series in the header and in the footer. We care about de-indexing thin content. For attribution reasons, every article had a duplicate, except there's like 8 words on the duplicate because it was just used to convert people and then attribute where the conversion came from. And so we de-index all of that thin content. And if you have large amounts of thin content that either, it doesn't have a lot of content on it, so literally thin, or it doesn't get a lot of traffic. De-anxix it, 301 it, get rid of it. Ahrefs has a really great guide. Ahrefs content pruning. This is what we use. They have a great spreadsheet. It helps you organize everything. It's super fantastic. Diagnosing Google Search Console errors. If you have an error in Google Search Console, go fix it. We're not technical, so, well, I'm not technical. And so, I just need to know that the error exists, and then, I can alert the client, and they'll generally have the resources that they need to fix the issue on their own. And so you really don't need to be technical when it comes to SEO, because when you're working on the biggest projects, they always have resources for you to help get things done. I have no idea how to optimize a site speed or a Google Search Console error. But I'm not really going to spend a lot of time talking about this, because this is literally what the entire SEO conversation is all about, is technical stuff. So, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. There's better, more experienced people that can tell you on how to do these things than I can. So how do we manage hundreds of pages of content per month? Well, we use Airtable. Airtable is like Google Sheets on steroids. Let me give you a quick view. I'll show you something pretty cool. So all right. So we'll go to do not pay. This is my view. So basically we have all the statuses here. We can sort content by status, and then it's all dynamic. So if we update the status, it'll jump to a different group. It'll jump to a different group. You can set up filters. So this is just a March. We could do last month. We could do a different project. We can group it by different things. We could group it by author. We could group it by editor. We could group it by due date. Let's do author. So now it's all grouped by author. And then we just have a lot of like projects here. You can just click around, and it has a status. And this basically allows anyone at any time on any device to log in and see every piece of content across every stage of the content production lifecycle. And I've tried a lot of PM tools. Airtable best fits our content workflow. What I found is that other PM tools make you bend your workflow to meet how their product works, but Airtable is really the most flexible. I'm going to show you one more cool thing. So when we go to import here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to grab some of the keywords. I'm going to grab some of the keywords that we were looking at earlier, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste them in. All right, so we just went from cluster AI, we went the main keyword, we went the volume and the variation. And what ends up happening is when I assign the project, Airtable automatically creates a Google Doc with all of the things that the writer needs to get started. Let's go check that out. Like all of the variations, it has the table. Remember when we gave them the word count requirements? Well, they have to, confirm that they actually followed it. We have links to some of the helpful docs that we discussed earlier. So they never say they lost it. We have all of the H2s that cluster AI found. In this case, it's a lot. So we're probably not going to use all of them. And then the writer will write directly in here. And this really makes everything super, super efficient. We spend a lot of time thinking about our content operations. But if you're just beginning, use Airtable, but build yours from scratch. You need, let's go to the Doc Digest. You need a keyword column, you need author, you need a status, URL, first draft is due. You don't need all these things though. Don't start with everything from the beginning because it'll get too complex for you. Going through the building process is really important for being able to change it later on. If I just gave you my template, you wouldn't accumulate the skills you need to be able to actually run it and maintain it. and make it better and change it for your specific workflows. But if you go through here and you create a URL and you create a, a meta title and a meta description variation and a featured image column and, a bunch of this stuff, this will be a good start. And over time, as you scale up content production, you'll naturally accumulate the skills that you'll need to be able to, scale up to hundreds per month. Okay, so, a big part of the strategy is predicated on scaling up your writing team. And content cost is a competitive advantage. The lower your cost, the more content and the more opportunity that you can cover with a given budget. But despite the fact that you want to lower content costs, start with freelancers who cost a little bit more, and engage with as many as possible, because through your, freelancers are generally, can be oftentimes a little bit more sophisticated, and that'll be helpful when you're not sophisticated. But as you get more sophisticated, you can take less and less, knowledgeable or sophisticated writers and put them into a system that helps them be sophisticated without that prior experience. But until you get there, start with freelancers who are a little bit more sophisticated and better writers. And then work with as many as possible, because eventually you're going to hire one of them to be your editor. And they're going to come in-house and they're going to help manage all of your other writers, so you can, go focus on, focus up the stack. And we're going to be publishing a lot of content on our applicant tracking system. We built an applicant tracking system that allowed us to evaluate 1,000 writers over 2020, send something like 300 writing tests, and extend offers to about 50 people. And really, the scale is the most important part of starting kind of your content production, because the first couple people that you hire might not be so good. And even if they are good, you're not going to have the skills you need to be able to really make them shine. So the more writers you work with, the better understanding that you get, and the better you'll get. And then eventually you'll have enough relationships where you can find the best person to bring in-house. If you want to learn more about the applicant tracking system, we're going to be publishing that as part of a new project that we're working on, where we're going to share more about what brought our company from 1 to 25 people in the last 12 months, because we had a lot of fun, and we do have a lot of fun, talking about team and culture and systems and processes that make what we do possible. Because when I look at what we do, it's not SEO. It's a content team. And this is, what we're going to show you is really, really cool, because it's going to allow you, similar to the content calendar, it allows you to see all the candidates. It sends emails. It's really, really helpful. So at some point, maybe when you're publishing 10 to 20 pages of content per month, it's going to make sense to start bringing your team in-house. And by this point, you should have worked with maybe 50 or 100 different freelancers. And you'll have enough relationships to identify and promote your best one. And while this is all happening, you should be documenting everything. Because really, you're going to be hiring a bunch of people without your experience and skill set, and you need to enable them to create an outcome that's as good or as better than you could do yourself. So documentation is going to be key there. You also want to look for people that have a passion for content, because that's going to be what keeps the quality high while scaling, is people who, it hurts their soul to publish bad content. For us on our team, our editors are the people that stop bad content from going live, because it hurts their soul. And a lot of them have been, they're based in Eastern Europe. They've been learning English. They've been practicing English and Western media their entire life. But they went to school for English literature. They got a master's degree in English literature, and then they end up teaching English literature. And I think 4 of our, a bunch of people on our team have master's degrees in English lit. And ultimately, what we do is, it comes down to people. And don't build a content sweatshop. I didn't realize, in hindsight, it's so obvious, but I didn't realize how important it was to me that my team win and hit their goals while they're hitting the company's goals. And no one really wants to work in an organization that's just creating bad content. So if you don't keep the content quality high, you're going to burn out the people who are passionate, and they're going to leave. And the people that are staying are just going to, as you're scaling, the easiest thing you can do is let things slide. It's the easiest thing. Okay, so bonus content number one, holding an SEO agency accountable. Everybody knows that SEO takes time, and so they end up going 6 or 9 months with an SEO agency before they find out that nothing's working. And it doesn't have to be that way. Some people repeat this process with as many as 3 or 4 SEO agencies before they swear it off altogether. They're done. But here are the ways that we keep ourselves accountable, and we tell our clients so they can keep ourselves accountable. So the first thing is, based off everything I said, you need to make sure that a large or the most percent of the budget is for content. Now, agencies, SEO agencies in particular, oftentimes don't have efficient content creation processes. They don't have their own content writers, they outsource it. And so what that means is content ends up ultimately becoming very expensive when you purchase it through an SEO agency. But when you purchase it through a content creation agency, they don't know how to do SEO. So that's kind of the pickle that you're in. So the first thing that you're going to do or hold them accountable to is, did they do the work that they said they're going to do? It's very simple, yes or no. The second thing is things that you can verify independently of the SEO. Are more keywords being indexed to my website? Is Google considering more and more keywords relevant, and are those keywords appearing in places like Ahrefs and Google Search Console? And then once you start getting more keywords, are those keywords beginning to hit page 1? And then are more and more and more keywords starting to hit page 1? And then am I starting to see organic traffic? And then am I seeing more organic traffic? And is it consistently growing? And after I'm consistently growing organic traffic, the metric finally moves to, am I generating more and more conversions on a month-by-month basis? And the KPIs change as you progress through the campaign. So let's check out number 3. Are more keywords being indexed to my website? You can go to Google Search Console, and basically what you should see is a graph that looks something like this. But in the beginning, it looks like this, and if you don't, this will only show a max of 1,000 keywords. But what you're looking for is, if you have 100 keywords, it should be 120 next week, and 140 the week after that, and 160 the week after that. And you should see continual increase in the number of keywords that Google's indexed to your site. If you do have already over 1,000, you can do it on a page-by-page basis. So if your SEO agency works on, keyword grouping tool, you can kind of see the progress of any individual given keyword by coming over here. And you can see it for this is the number of impressions going up. So it's really easy to hold your SEO agency accountable before you even get your first visitor. Things should be moving up and to the right in Google Search Console. All right, so bonus content number 2, how to grow your SEO agency super fast. So the number one thing you should do is you should leave a high profile project where you create a great outcome for a well-known brand like Steve Todd. He left FreshBooks after he got it to something like 1 million visitors a month. And that allowed him to immediately go and work on the best projects. But if you didn't do that, then what you have to do is you have to start at the bottom. You have to start working with solopreneurs and small businesses with unambitious budgets and unambitious outcomes. And the people with the ambitious projects and the ambitious budgets aren't going to trust you with the money. They're just not. And so
the first thing you can do is be like Steve Toth and leave off of a great outcome and start building your brand on social before you leave. But if you don't do that, then the next best thing you can do is start your own internal content project. I started doggypedia.org, the DR9, 0 to 116,000 visitors, because I knew that as a new consultant, clients weren't going to trust me with the outcomes that I thought I was capable of and definitely knew I wanted to work at. And so I built the project that I wanted to consult on for myself. And it later would lead to working on Do Not Pay, the most ambitious project on the internet in 2020, at least. Maybe not the most ambitious, but a very ambitious project. Build an audience on social. I can attribute all the revenue my agencies generated to social. Even if it's someone I already know in my network, just them having reinforcement will ensure that they recommend me when the time comes up. This is a really big one. Don't take on projects that don't have the ambition or budget to help you get to close 2x bigger opportunities in 12 months. If you're closing $1,000 deals, you need to get to, $1,000 a month deals, you need to get to 5 or 10,000 a month as soon as possible, even more. And if you do a great job and you take a project from 0 to 500 visitors a month, no one cares. No one, well, at least not the people that you want to work with and who are going to pay you 5 or 10,000 a month. They just don't care. So, if the budget's not there or the client's not ambitious and a year goes by and you don't have a case study that gets you to twice as big opportunities, in the following year, you just spun your wheels for a year. Yeah, great. You charged the client $1,000, but you didn't make any progress as a business. You're still, undercompensated. Your profit margins are still bad. You don't have enough money to hire people. You really need to make sure that every project leads to a better project, especially in SEO where projects take so long to deliver. I wasn't able to publish the Do Not Pay case study until month 16. And if I put in all this work into it and the case study didn't look good, it would have been a huge waste of my time. Say no to opportunities that fall outside the thing you want to grow your business on. If someone wants me to build their website, say no. I'm going to say no. And the reason is because if I do a great job on their website, it doesn't help me get more SEO projects. And so if you're an SEO agency, don't do Facebook ads because first of all, you're probably not going to do a good job on the Facebook ads. And second of all, even if you do a good job, it's not going to help you get more SEO projects. The short-term revenue is, again, not worth it. Like momentum takes a long time to build. Niche down. Our niche is venture-backed SaaS companies. That makes things a lot easier. We know exactly who we're talking to. All the content that we create is focused on that vertical. And also it improves our operations, our efficiency, our margins, and ease of training for our team. Last thing I want to call it is number 2. I missed this. Great outcomes. Not only are great outcomes necessary, but they need to be delivered consistently. If you can't deliver it consistently, you never create momentum, and building your business is going to be an uphill battle. And I can tell you that an uphill battle where you're lighting other people's money and goals on fire it's a nightmare. It's really not fun. And if you can't be consistent, I would advise not to build an agency because you're going to get underpaid. People are going to think you're a scammer, and you're just never going to reach the goals that you set out to achieve. All right. So there's a couple places to ask questions, keep in touch, engage with our community. If you're interested in SEO, check out facebook.com/groups content distribution engine. If you're into team building and you want more information on like how to hire writers and how to build systems and processes, we're going to be publishing content like, how we manage the 65 third-party apps that our organization depends on, or how we manage PTO and benefits for 25 people in 3 or 4 different countries, or how we do payroll when we don't have things like ADP and Gusto available to us. We also have a ton of videos on our automated keyword research method across a variety of verticals and niches. And so if it didn't click for you and you want to know more, check out youtube.com
you know, C or whatever content distribution videos. And then finally, you know, I expand on almost everything that I covered here in much more detail on contentdistribution.com. This was kind of my magnum opus, and I had to cover everything. But if you want to learn more about how Google works, how to rank without backlinks, how to write metadata with, you know, higher CTRs and are super clickbaity, you know, go to our free guides. Thanks a ton, everybody. I hope you know, the time with me today was valuable, and if it was, you know, shout me out on social, tag me. I'd love to hear. I spent a lot of time preparing for this, and if you disagree with me and you think that my approach to Google is wrong, I'd also love to hear with you. Let's get a discussion going in public, and you know, I'll bring my data, and you can bring your data, and we can both be nice to each other. All right, folks, happy SEOing.